continued detention of the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, and chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, without trial is putting the Tinubu administration under spotlight on issues of human rights abuses and violations. There's also allegation of arrest and detention of Senator Yari, who opposed President Tinubu's choice of President of the Senate. It is alleged that he was detained for refusing to answer President Tinubu's calls, although DSS, as they wish to be called, they've refused or refuted the claim. The question is, how will the DSS conduct itself under the new administration? Will Nigerians see better respect for human rights under the present administration? Will the government be more tolerant of opposition and civil society? Well, Arise analyst, associate professor of law Sam Amadi joins us now to look at this thorny issue. What direction do you think the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration is kowtowing right now?
I think it will be very early to say conclusively because of a few incidents, but again, with the detention of, arrest and detention of the former governor of Central Bank, who was suspended. Some people could argue whether, based on the act, whether suspension was a proper action to be taken, but suspended, and then since then not yet arraigned. Now, of course, under the...
You are a lawyer. Yeah. Based on that act,
yes.
Was that the right thing to have done?
No, based on the act, really. The act does not preclude anybody from being arrested for criminal offenses, but then you cannot criminalize monetary policy or fiscal or monetary policy failures. And my view has been very clear. Every action taken by a public officer that is not criminal in nature are subject to issues of reprimand or judgment. This is excess of monetary policy. Wrong. Many people think that Central Bank governor was very, very, or maybe wrong in his approach, but that does not amount to criminal action.
So why is he still being kept by the DSS?
That's the point. That's the point. I think they're playing public, populism. People feel, oh, this governor is not good or EFC is not good. But the real process is that if you arrest anybody, any public official, or any former or acting current public official, the DSS should have come out day one and say, we've gotten for this purpose, and or maybe daily or weekly give you updates. First, there's no point not taking him on bail, whether administrative or judicial bail, okay, and allow him to go. And then you can always call him whatever they need, and then arraign him. You see, the notion of keeping people behind bars, and I think that's where the judiciary also plays a key role here. We've seen instances, whether with Shawara or any other person, they'll go and take the 14-day approval to keep you behind 14 days. I don't think any government that arrests somebody should be allowed to keep them behind bars for 14 days. Except it's a real serious security challenge, which has to be shown to the judges, even in camera. You have to provide the approach all over the world. That if you're going to keep them a day longer, you have to put an affidavit, the reason why. And then even if it's not going to be given to the public, there will be in-camera conversation, process, application, judicial action, not mere storytelling to justify. So far, I think those detentions of him and the EFCC chairman who is now suspended also, are wrong in that they suggest that
they're not only wrong, they are illegal. Yes, say so.
They are fishing for evidence.
Absolutely, because here, Sam, here, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act is being eroded very badly. What does that say to our jurisprudence by the secret police?
The Administration of Justice Act was actually done to avoid illegal and extended detention. But it has now become a reverse because the caveat there that you can go to judges and seek for authorization. Now look at it. That proceeding is supposed to be a judicial proceeding, meaning the judges ought not to grant it whimsically. We have seen kind of routine grant. So they go, Shawara was a case in point. What's the reason? You go there, judges give 14 days. No, judges should actually hold it against you. The presumption is a presumption of liberty, that nobody should be kept behind. So for you to trigger that provision judicially, it means that you have to submit to the judges verifiable. And in fact, the standard for judicial review is verifiable fact. For example, you can't say we suspect that he's committing a crime. You have to show them judges evidence that this is what we have seen. We need to continue that process. And judges have to be convinced that that is an extraordinary procedure that ordinarily you don't trigger. Now what we see is routine. They arrest a columnist, they arrest probably somebody who has expressed an opinion, they'll go to judge, judges will grant it as a matter of course. No. Onus is on the DSS to show exceptional circumstance, because the constitutional presumption is that 24 hours, 48 hours, depending on circumstances. Going beyond that, which could be tolerated, must be a clear evidence-based application to a court. So first, public perception. A new government comes in place and picks up quote-unquote enemies, those who have for some time spoken, acted against its interests, or those who are presumed to have done so. The story of Yari, now, it was picked up or released also. The DSS says, we didn't pick him, major outlets say this was because he refused to pick calls from the president, or he defied his order. He challenged the president's nominee or proposed Senate president. Now, you come and say that's not true. But you never told the Nigerians that we arrested a sitting senator, a former Senate president contestant. Now, if you're going to arrest him, pick him up and detain him 2 weeks after his very significant
at the behest of who would the DSS be working for?
That's what I'm saying. The DSS, that's the problem. Look, the DSS has missed the road. DSS is not a regime protector. DSS is involved in security of the state, Nigerian state. For example, someone talked about this Mesoma case. Not involved DSS. This is pure police crime investigation.
Absolutely. There's erosion of power here.
DSS is losing integrity and public trust. Their statement sounds like a position party. They say, Nigeria, misguided Nigeria. No, you've put yourself into a political, crossfire. And so people now judge their actions as political. Now, the key point now is, are we going to see a different DSS that's going to be build up its integrity and public trust, focus on state security, allow democracy and the oppositions of democracy, the contentions and competition. And so when you pick a man who just gave a strong fight to a president nominee in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks ago, and then you say you picked him, he knows why he's picked. No. Public. This security is for the public. We have picked him because we have XY information. You don't have to give us details. It constitutes
a danger to the Nigerian nation.
So we know.
So what danger does Emefiele and Bawa constitute to the Nigerian nation?
The proper approach is to say, we can't presume the constitute or not constitute, but you only on the DSS to now tell the Nigerian public, this is this extraordinary danger that this person's liberty now poses. If it's because they've been investigated for conduct they committed while in office, those investigations can happen where they are on bail. These are very high-profile persons. And the condition for bail is that they are guaranteed to attend trial or to attend
and you can hold their international passports.
So I think it sounds like intimidation. This is like authoritarian outreach. It's like, people are worried. We are in a democracy.
The presidency has not said anything about this.
Not about it. So the idea is, look, this is...
But why is that so? First, when we're talking of fundamental rights here as enshrined in the Constitution.
First, it's a case of play dead brain. The presidency can say, look, that's DSS. And that's the more reason why DSS has to be beyond board, beyond politics. Because ordinarily, the president should not dictate how he does his work. But when he does his work in a pattern that suggests political calculations, then it loses that independence. It's supposed to be an independent
The political calculation here is that the Director General of the DSS is a personal friend of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And then, of
that's
course,
what is in the public sphere.
And then also during the campaign, we saw pictures and images of closeness. But the point is, and people are also alleging that probably the role they play. This is it. The DSS director, just like the INEC chairman, just like the IG of police, just like such positions are positions that are regulatory. They deal with people's liberties, people's freedom. They are never going to be done at the expense, at the association of friendship or relationship. They have to keep those institutions free from politics now. What we are seeing now, people don't have regard for DSS, unfortunately. They see it, even for the days of last president, as always, for example, DSS arresting a person who did a caricature of the First Lady. What's the business of DSS controlling decent language? That's not their work. A caricature of a First Lady does not in any way suggest national security. So the point is that DSS has come to a point where people basically see it as a caricature of a serious security agency, because a security agency should rarely interfere with politics, because once you get into political dealings, then you politicize the agency, and therefore you have that push to work at the suggestion of the executives. Again, politicians will like to use every tool to get political advantage. That's the nature of their political craft. But the regulatory craft is to find a way to protect yourself from being politicized and being hijacked. So what we are seeing now, the question people are asking is, are we seeing a pattern? Will we see a better human rights record of this government? Meaning, for example, Tetia spoke before I came on the issue about access to justice. So if the government looks at those judgments and says, look, there's a right to information, and they give it, that would be a departure from stonewalling of the previous. If government, the Attorney General, whoever becomes Attorney General, gives executive, or even the President executive direction. When Obama came to government, the first thing he did was issue executive order that spoke to the executive branch, says, in matter of freedom of information, the onus is to give. The most default mode is give, except that you have to provide a reason why not to give. That's a president who recognizes the importance of freedom of information. So this president can say that as a matter of policy, this is our stand, that all human rights should be obeyed. People should be tolerant. Nobody should be politically detained, arrested for expressing viewpoints, no matter how indecent,
no matter how torrid, yeah,
or even disrespectful. Part of democracy, I've always said, the right to speech is also the right to stupid, foolish, innocent speech. They are not criminal. The Constitution protects all manner of speech, as long as they're not hate crime. They're not. If they are falsehood, you can go for criminal slander. You can go for civil action and slander. But once it is accurate, fair speech, but disrespectful or opposing to government, they are protected. And so we would like to see, because the quality of democracy, and this is a run-up to a contested election where you're talking about a tribunal, Supreme Court, hotly contested, two major positions are in court. You want to make sure that the state, the institutions of security are themselves not so intertwined with the politics, integral politics, such that you have a confidence. The courts, the law enforcement agencies, the police, the DSS are critical drivers of that transparency of post-election management. And so when you see clamp down on persons, starting with the governor of Central Bank, no matter divided opinion about his tenure, that is human to err. Part of being a public officer is that you err. If you commit crime, you go for the crime. If you commit civil wrong, you go for it. If you fail incompetence, people have a right to caricature you, abuse you.
Will you be detaining somebody for that? No.
So that's really
it has no basis in law.
You have to come and explain why you have to keep them. You don't have to give us detail, but let's know that this man is being investigated
for XYZ reasons.
Exactly, and not to just put him in the dark. And the fear is, are we moving away from the Buhari era into a much more human rights friendly era? Or are we going to get back to an era where the institution of state will be used to clamp down, to intimidate, and to force people not to express their democratic right? That's really the challenge we have.
Yes, the challenge indeed. But if we'll go by what Mr. President said in Bissau, that democracy, though might be tough, but is the best option in our region.
And democracy means first human rights.
Absolutely. Thanks so very much. Associate Professor of Law, Sam, Amadi, and a rights analyst who are coming on the program.